Hello everyone and welcome back to the channel. Now this isn't a type of video I do very often, however today Governor Hochul announced a new quote-unquote transformative project that will link Brooklyn and Queens together. She's calling this the Interborough Express. Now, before we get into the video and start talking about all of this, I'm going to ask all of you to hit the like button and subscribe if you haven't already. Now let's get straight into this. So, looking here on the MTA's Twitter, we see the map of the project. And it looks like it will be going from 74th Street Broadway on the 7 and the Queens Boulevard line down to Bay Ridge down here in Brooklyn. So, just following the pathing of this track, it looks like it will be taking the Bay Ridge branch, the former Bay Ridge branch right of way. If you don't know what that is, that used to be a former commuter rail, I think LIRR line in New York City, and it got transformed into a freight branch. However, I believe they transfer different types of locomotives and stuff along that line. It connects up with the L line around the Livonia and Junius Street station, around the L and the 3 stop, and that's what you can see down here. Actually, if you check out my Junius Street least used station video, you can see part of the Bay Ridge branch kind of spurring off of the 3 line there. But it says the Interborough Express, running along 14 miles of existing freight tracks, would stretch from Bay Ridge to Jackson Heights and could connect up to 17 subway lines and LIRR, serving about 1 million riders daily. Now, I have seen some people who aren't very interested in this new line and think it's a horrible idea because it doesn't really connect any big places in Brooklyn and Queens. However, I don't see that as much of a big issue, you know. It seems like this is mainly here to connect the two boroughs without having to go into the city center here in Manhattan. You know, currently people who want to get from Brooklyn to Queens that don't want to take the crosstown G line would have to hop on the F train, take that through Manhattan, the E train, take that through Manhattan, the R train, etc., etc. And with this new line, you're just going around the eastern leg of Brooklyn and Queens before reaching the western part, Bay Ridge here, and it connects with a whole bunch of different subway lines. As you can see, it connects with the Queens Boulevard and Flushing line up here. We have the Metropolitan, the Myrtle Avenue line right here. We have the Canarsie line, Nassau Street and Fulton Street, New Lots. We have the Flatbush spur of the 2 and the 5. And then we have the Brighton line, Culver, West End, and Sea Beach, and then we have finally the Bay Ridge line on the 4th Avenue, I believe that is. So yeah, it does connect a whole bunch of different subway lines, and I feel like it's not too much of a bad idea as some people make it out to be. You know, I have brand new subway loaded up here, so we can kind of like plot out this line. So I've named it IBX right here for Interborough Express, and let's just start plotting it out and seeing like what it could look like on a rail map. You know, if we zoom in here, I believe this is the Bay Ridge branch right here. So I believe they'll be converting it from the current freight corridor it currently is to maybe a heavy rail line, like maybe subway or commuter rail. That's kind of what I'm wondering right now. Is it going to be subway or commuter rail? I personally think it will be commuter rail, mainly because it's using an existing freight corridor, and they might not want to combine subway service with that. But as I said in my previous, New York City needs better commuter rail video, I think if they're going to make this a commuter rail line, we need a better rolling stock that can support the large amount of passengers that probably will be traveling along this. The current Metro North rolling stock, you only have one door at either end of the car. And a lot of it is just like commuter style seating instead of maybe longitudinal or transverse. And that's a big issue when it comes down to these types of not intercity but inner city really commuter rail. Like what you see on the London Overground, you have completely longitudinal seating. You see a lot in the Berlin S-Bahn where you have transverse seating. So I feel like we need better commuter rail rolling stock to kind of support something like this. But let's continue on, right? I'm not sure what stops it will have in between, so I'm just going to be plotting the kind of the transfers and stuff. So we have the M train right here at Middle Village Metropolitan, and right here, if we could sneak this in, Seneca, or Seneca. There we go. I had a hard time pronouncing the station name when I first made the video. Let's see. The Bay Ridge branch comes down here, connects with the L here. Looks like it might connect up at Broadway Junction. That wouldn't be much of an issue. Oh no, it connects with the L line. It just runs along the L line, I think. Bushwick. So that would be interesting. If it does run along the L line, maybe it would use subway rolling stock to run along the subway right of way. I'm not really too keen on how all of that will work, but it's definitely interesting what was proposed here today. Well, technically yesterday when y'all will be watching this video, but it's going to connect up with the 2 and the 5 Flatbush. I would expect it will probably connect up here at Avenue H, but I would expect them to want to have that transfer right there to the B line. But let's connect it up to Brighton, Culver, Sea Beach, and West End. And then finally right here at Bay Ridge, and let's just put a stop down there if it would let me. Seems like it's not letting me, but whatever. So this is the line right here. Obviously would have more stops, but it's very interesting connecting the eastern part of Queens. You know, I've seen a lot of proposals of people trying to get like a subway or a transit line in this middle section of Queens right here, because this is basically a transit desert. Nothing's here right now, and I've seen a lot of proposals of bringing like the 2nd Avenue line across into Queens right here. That wouldn't be too much of a bad idea, but I think that's a topic for a future video. Now, if this were a subway line, and I'm not sure if the Bay Ridge branch does connect up like directly with the L line or not, so I'm not sure if this will be following the L along a certain section or not. However, if it is using the L line's tracks, I assume it will be a subway line, but if it isn't, then I presume it's going to be a commuter rail line. You know, I feel like there might be some proposals to send it up into the Bronx. I know the Triborough RX, as you can see right here, the Triborough line is was supposed to go up to Hunts Point and up into Co-op City in the Bronx. So that might be their plan here, or running it along the Hell's Gate line, turning into a Metro North branch. But that's very interesting. If we come back to the MTA's Twitter feed right here, we can see we're going to begin an environmental review and work with our federal and state partners to make this project a reality. So they're already getting started on the environmental review, and that's very, very interesting. You know, I feel like this is the one project that's really going to get pushed forward. And that's interesting because they've been working on the 2nd Avenue subway for 70, 80 years now, almost a full century. It'd be very interesting to see if this gets fully built before like phase 3 of the 2nd Avenue subway. Now, I highly doubt that because we all know things in New York City do not move quickly. Just look at how long it took for them to build the 3 and L train connection at Junior Street. And one thing that does interest me right here is it has the 2 going to New Lots. Very, very interesting. I would have assumed they would have put the 4 down there, but whatever. But yeah, we do know how long it takes for the MTA to do certain projects, so it would be interesting to see how long this takes if the project ever does come to fruition, you know. But I would prefer to have at least phase 2 of the 2nd Avenue subway and a LaGuardia extension of the N train up here. But that's very interesting. And if we come to the 2nd Avenue Saga's Twitter feed, suggest you definitely follow him. Very, very interesting account. Like it a lot. But if we read this little, I guess, transcript right here, Governor Hochul is committed to a generational investment for regional mobility for working New Yorkers. A new Interborough Express line along a 14-mile existing freight right-of-way from Bay Ridge, Brooklyn to Jackson Heights, Queens could be that investment. Governor Hochul is directing the MTA to commence environmental review and identify the best transit option for the corridor, heavy rail, light rail, or BRT. Very interesting. If it's using an existing freight corridor, I wonder why they're even considering bus rapid transit unless they're just going to scrap the whole freight corridor thing. This historic project would improve transit service and job access for underserved communities in Brooklyn and Queens, serving a corridor that is currently home to 900,000 residents and 260,000 jobs, with expected growth of at least 41,000 people and 15,000 jobs in the next 25 years. So I think that's the big thing with this project. I know a lot of people talks about that it doesn't connect to any big spots. You have a lot of connections to transit lines. Anyone needs to get into Manhattan, you transfer to the M at Middle Village. You transfer to the E at Jackson Heights. You transfer to the L at Wilson, the J at Broadway Junction. You have the A Express right there. You have the B and the Q on the Bryan line. You have a whole bunch of connections if you do need to get into Manhattan at any point along the line. So I feel like that's not a big issue. The main thing it's trying to do is connect up that big transit desert in Queens. And I feel like that's the main thing we should be talking about here. Not that it doesn't connect to any big spots. I feel like with all of the people that might be transferring to Manhattan lines like the M at Middle Village or the L at Wilson, it could give a little bit of development to that area because there's going to be a lot more people passing through those stations now. So I feel like that's a big, boost for those sections of the city, especially in Queens, because we know how, underdeveloped and low density Queens is. So the next slide, we have the Interborough Express would leverage an existing freight right-of-way to add capacity and provide new ways to travel between Brooklyn and Queens, and also provide residents with a new fast and reliable connection to Manhattan. The corridor would connect up to 17 subway lines in addition to the LIRR, expanding access to jobs for the 85,000 or so daily commuters from these areas who work in Manhattan. It would also serve roughly 129,000 residents who make daily trips within or across Brooklyn and Queens, currently relying on buses that get caught in traffic and often run late. See, there's a lot of people that do actually transfer between Brooklyn and Queens, despite what a lot of people will have you believe. And I've done it myself, going to, what station was it? I think it was Liberty Avenue on the C. And then the least used stations videos, I recorded 2 of them the same day. Liberty Avenue on the C, and I believe it was 75th on the E or something like that. And it would have been nice to have a train like that could just connect up with the lines, you know. Instead, I had to take the C to the J and then J to the E. It was very, very convoluted and confusing that way. So that's definitely helpful for people who do need to get between Brooklyn and Queens. And I feel like it's a good project. But if it is commuter rail, the thing I'm worried about is just capacity and stuff and frequency of the line. You know, I've mentioned that in my New York City needs better commuter rail. You can't have large frequencies and large headways of trains, you know, along a given line that's supposed to handle so many passengers, you know, each day or whatever. Just look at the Lexington Avenue line. Before, you know, the pandemic, it was carrying about 5 million people per day. 5 million riders along the 4, 5, and 6 lines in that section of Manhattan. Or no, that's the whole subway system. The Lexington Avenue line, I believe it was 1 million. Got those numbers mixed up. But Lexington Avenue line carried around 1 million passengers per day, right? The frequencies on that line, the 6 runs maybe every 5 to 8 minutes. Well, pre-pandemic. Right now, it's running like every 20 minutes, but we don't talk about that. The 4 and the 5 run like every 2-3 minutes, since they kind of like switch in between. 4 comes first, then 2 minutes later it's the 5. 2 minutes later it's the 4. That's what my experience is. You know, 125th or like 86th Street. I would see 4 and 5s coming frequently like that. However, you get those types of frequencies on lines that get a lot of traffic. You know, a lot of people hopping on the train. And if this is supposed to have a frequency comparable with a line like the Lexington Avenue line or any other line like maybe the E on Queens Boulevard or Fulton Street, the A and the C, something like that, we need to have good frequencies. You can't have a train coming every 20 minutes during peak hours. That's horrible. What's the off-peak headway if the peak headway is 20 minutes per train, you know? A train every 20 minutes at least. It really makes you wonder about those things. So I hope they really consider like a better frequency of trains, because commuter rail, we know New York City's commuter rail is not frequent at all. You can't just show up, hop on a train, boom. That's impossible with the way commuter rail currently is and the ticketing solutions and all that stuff. Whereas with subway, you swipe your Metro card, you just waiting for the train for a couple minutes. And that's what kind of makes me want them to make this a subway line, because you can almost guarantee that it's going to have at least acceptable frequencies. Yes, the Second Avenue line might run every 10 minutes or so, but you can still just swipe the Metro card and you know the train is going to come relatively soon. With a commuter rail, you don't really know that. You buy a ticket for the LIRR and it might come in 40 minutes, it might come in 20. You never know, unless you check in the train time app or whatever. But that's just my thoughts on this new, new plan and stuff. We have a picture of the Interborough project, and as you can see, it comes from Co-op City down here, up here at least, down to Jackson Heights, and it has a couple of stations in Queens. It looks like it's following the L's right of way, and then it crosses west into Brooklyn. And the one thing I see no one talk about, interesting, Brooklyn Army Terminal N. I don't know what that's all about. But anyways, the one thing you never see people talk about with this project is this. Look how close that is. We talk about the L train getting extended into Staten Island. Why not this? It's already facing west. It could get extended to St. George, provide a connection with the SIR there, instead of people having to take the ferry, people who might actually want to get into Brooklyn or get into Queens, instead of taking the ferry into Manhattan and then dealing with this convoluted mess right here. You just hop on the Interborough RX, boom. Even people who want to get to the Bronx, instead of taking the ferry and then hopping on the 5 train here, taking that all the way uptown, or the 1 train, taking that all the way up here, you just hop on this, boom, you got the connection to the 6 right there at Hunts Point. Very easy, very interesting that they propose to stop on Randall's Island, but whatever. But yeah, this is something to think about in the next year or so. We know how long it takes in New York City, but this is definitely something to think about. In terms of new transit projects and stuff, and I hope to see some changes and some more information on this in the near future. I'll definitely be checking this out a little bit more. And yeah, for those of you who are watching all the way into the end right now, make sure you go check out the video that I posted earlier today. Yeah, I'm talking about the history of the R62 and 62A. Go watch that now. Anyways, though, I'll catch all of you in the next video. Peace.